We are getting ready to get into game number 3 here at Lobby Legends Noblegarden, and what an exciting one it's been so far. Pretty much a brand new patch, brand new meta, and a set of great players here. Currently being led, Sottle, by Alucard, who had a very solid 4th place finish, or joint 3rd, 4th, sorry, in game number 1, and then looked like he easily finished first in game number 2. So he'll be looking to sort of just cruise through this game if things aren't going well.
Yeah, Queen Ashara, one of the highest first place potential heroes in the game. Actually reporting based on stat tracking as a tier 4 hero right now, even at high MMR, which is super weird to me personally. I definitely would understand it being like 1st or 8th and then therefore being not a tier 1 hero just based on average. I do think in the hands of very, very good players, it is a fantastic hero overall. But it does make the choice to even pick it in Alucard's position kind of interesting, because as you said, 4.5 from the initial lobby, and then he went for a hero that is kind of 1st or 8th a little bit, in my opinion. People might, disagree with that somewhat and say that, even when it misses, it can still hang in there. But I do think that was an interesting decision overall. Speaking of which, I do believe, unless this is a test game, players are currently being offered some heroes right now, and there are some great-looking choices. Both are in 4th looking to consolidate, but there is the Queen Ashara up against Shudderwock again. 2nd time Zixo has been offered Shudder with no beasts in the lobby.
Yeah.
That's brutal. And he's now ending up with Ashara no dragons as well. The minion types have not been kind to Zixo with the heroes he has been offered, I would say.
They haven't, but even without dragons, I think Ashara's a good pick. Because as you were just saying, it feels like the highest potential first place. And guess what? Zixo currently sitting on 6 points. Maybe doesn't need a first, but if he gets it, it's even better, right? I think he needs something big, because relying on everyone above him doing poorly, I think is not a good plan indeed. But Sol, we have your hero here in the lobby from Sao King, picking up Scabs. The hero is pretty much all I saw you play while we were jamming the last few games. You were like, oh, I've been offered Scabs again. I guess I'm just going to win this lobby. Do you want to talk to us about some of these, I'll call them thief heroes that are currently in the game that are very strong in this current meta?
Yeah, so Tess, Refarm, Scabs, the card Murazond, these are all things that have got infinitely stronger. Yeah, these are all things that have got infinitely stronger because everyone is kind of playing monotype, right? There's just Naga everywhere. Scabs, if you kind of rewind to pre-Buddy meta, Scabs was a top tier hero back then initially, just because of the way that weaving in a 2-mana hero power to early curves works. You can do aggro curve on this turn, for example, if you find any economy unit in your first 2 shops or your opponent's board, or you can just solve that magical problem of pick up a tempo minion on turn 1, level to 2, then what do you do on 2 with 5 gold, right? That's always the eternal problem. It's one of the most difficult turns to navigate in the game, I think. When you have Scab's hero power, that's just not an issue, right? Because you can always just hero power and buy a minion. That's great for Scabs overall. But more importantly, just getting to press a button and having a 3 out of 7 chance to get an Athissa every single turn for the late game is just insane. And it's very hard to be able to cope with that on the other side. Because, for example, Tess buying 1 Athissa costs 4 gold over the course of a turn, right? 1 to roll, 3 then to buy the Athissa. If you buy 2 minions, then that 1 gold hero power is split between the 2 minions that you bought. But Scabs just goes, 2 mana. Okay, there it is. Cool. I'm done. Moving on with my life. So I think Scabs in particular is just one of the absolute best heroes in the game right now.
Yeah, and already looking here from both, it has the option for the triple. The shell here, he could just level, even maybe use the coin to buy something else if he wants to just push out this greed. Or do you think it's too greedy there and instead like level coin buy now? Could be worthwhile to just get a triple into 3.
I think leaving it in the shop is absolutely fine. He's mutinous, so I expect he will be okay for early tempo anyway. Therefore, you could argue, right, this is where this warped level of meta really changes decisions for a lot of players. In Bofa's position, third or fourth this game, probably fine, right? In the spot that he's in the leaderboard overall in terms of making it through to tomorrow, which is what matters. So a lot of people would argue in going back to old metas, you'd say, well, early triple into a 3, tempo triple into a 4, maybe pick up a Meccano tank, something like that. That's going to allow me to get, you know, top 4 fairly consistently. I just don't think that's the case. I think that gets 6th in this meta, right? And that's not really what both are still trying to do. So I do still think he's going to be a little bit greedier than usual in this spot.
Really nice shop there for Zixo, right? You know, he gets the Shoal Commander along with Wind Fury there, can actually throw that onto Wind Fury if he feels he needs it. But also, it depends who he's against, right? He's going up against Scabs. So, again, I think if he was looking at being against a Daryl or a Mutinous, maybe he'd look at putting it on the Wind Fury, but I think because he isn't, this might be just overall a little bit better to just... Because I think it's likely the 4-1 is going to kill a couple of things at this point in the game.
And I think very specifically, if Zixo were to mouse over Scabs right now, I believe he would see Naga 3 based on the previous turn of what Scabs had. Naga 3 this early means your opponent has 3 minions with 3 attack, very commonly, right? 3-1 and the 1-3, which is essentially a 3-3 because you pump it with its own spellcraft spell, which means 4-1 Divine Shield kills 2 of those things, 4-4 kills 2 of those things, which will enable very nice trades for him across the board. And there you see that exact situation panning out. However, 4-1 Popbot has come along to play spoiler. Thankfully, Zixo does dodge that disaster trade for the extra point of damage, though.
Checking on Kid, who is currently playing Bran, was sitting at the top, and I believe still is, or at least joint top, along with Roger. Is going pretty wide, has got his Bran up ready to go right now with the Murlocs again, but Kid needs to do something big this game to be able to really have a chance at finishing top 4. Currently sitting on 4.5 points, which is 6th right now. And a long way away from Bofa, who's 4th.
I don't know if anyone involved caught the hero choices here, but, you know, coming into a lobby, right, I'm in trouble. I'm 4 points off qualifying. I need a win, probably first or second. I bet on Bran in the Naga meta. That seems like a strange decision to me. Again, old meta, buddy meta, even pre-buddy meta, sure, I can see it, right? Bran wins lobbies when Bran has a good game. I think even a good Bran game in this meta is going to get 4th, right, and lose to the Naga players. So I would be amazed if Kid actually saw kind of a reasonable pool of heroes there. I think he probably just ended up with the best of a bad bunch with that Bran pickup. Speaking of hero choices, Yanase here ending up on the dancing Daryl. We were informed by Lorinda, thank you very much, that he passed up a Galakron to do this, which is, that is tournament gaming right there. That's exactly what that is. Galakron, some people's opinion, the best hero in the game right now. But Yanase just saying, you know what, Daryl is still Daryl, and I believe that even in this level of a spike meta, I still think Daryl can get me 1 or 2 more points on the board and just absolutely lock this thing up very, very consistently. This is an absolute tournament pick from Yanase.
Yeah, rewarded for it as well with double Popbot dances as well, like looking very, very strong indeed. I do wonder when he's going to transition out of that, but now Salking doesn't even, he has all the triples he could ever want here. He doesn't have to buy that. He's just going to get it done now with the triple Shell Collector. Now has the triple Myrmidon as well. He's already Tavern 4.
Really?
Oh, you wanted to wait and then level play next turn?
Quick check. Where is Salking in the standings? He has 9 points. Okay, this might be okay. Just in terms of tournament metagaming, this might be okay. Like, ladder game, maximizing MMR, this is 2 6s all day of the week. I still would argue, again, I'm going to keep going back to this point, but the meta is so polarized right now, but I still think if you're playing for 4th a lot of the time, the correct thing to do is to try and spike 6s, because anything below that just doesn't get that, right? But like, if you're in a position where you say, like, okay, 6th is probably okay, that's when you can kind of fall back on these old-fashioned tempo lines. But still, taking a 5 there is a big deviation for me.
do enjoy it's like, right, so how do I play if I want to go max greed and go for the powerhouse late game plays? Yeah, you really want to get to 6 and, you know, get into those 6 costs. Okay, how do I play if I want to play like tempo and aggro and beat people up? Yeah, you really want to get to 6 and get in those 6 drops. It's just
That's the thing. There's an entire dynamic that we haven't even really talked about, because I think we've been minus beasts all 3 lobbies so far, which is when I talk about like the tempo scams and what you can do with Manted Queen or Leroy or whatever else, Sephin, Divine Shield, blah, blah, blah. Ghast Coiler scam is another thing that factors into that you absolutely can do to people. That just hasn't really been a factor because beasts have been out so much. But again, that involves going to 6 to find Ghast Coilers. If you haven't played that much, if this thought hasn't dawned on you just yet, Ghast Coiler got a colossal buff in this patch because Leroy Jenkins is now added to the pool as a Death Rattle minion, which means particularly if you are in lobbies where mechs are out and demons are out, for example, you then have a very limited pool of death rattles, and one of them is Leroy, which means Ghast Coilers, Golden Ghast Coilers, Reborn Ghast Coilers just spit out Leroy Jenkins with an absolutely unfair level of consistency. Could really scam your opponent in a lot of positions. But just like I said, just not a dynamic that we've seen because beasts have been banned so often.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Bofa, he does get his triple into a 6, but they're not the best, are they?
No.
Does he look at the Genie here just to be able to create more money and just have something that does something on the board, like as opposed to like Lil Rag feels a bit pointless. The other one I would query is Zap, whether that's just worthwhile because of its what it can do. Just peel away a couple of smaller minions, maybe save yourself some health if you are going to lose the fight.
I think I like the Zap overall. It's just the biggest stat stick. You know, it's the most well, I mean, it's arguably very close in terms of overall tempo between that and the Genie right now. But also, he's mutinous, right? So just having the biggest individual numbers on his things is somewhat interesting. But yeah, I think overall, any 6 drop that doesn't say Naga on it there was going to be a pretty big whiff for Bofa.
Okay. Not the worst minion to get thrown out by the Genie. Still though, going to take a lot of damage.
And it's going to be a scrap here to avoid an 8th, because that'll be the disaster. In the position that he's in, he's the gatekeeper, right? He's the player in 4th place. So hitting an 8th here would be an absolute disaster because it opens those gates extra wide for anyone that wants to waltz on through into that 4th place.
Gonna look at the Myrmidon.
With the Major Domo.
Yeah, and just and if he can just force the stats onto it. Oh, that's a lot of stats he could have made. Because is this turns worth of buying things going to actually stabilize him? I mean, he does have the elementals, so he can probably buff the Cyclone. I think he's going to go for with the Major Domo, but. Oh, I think that was a way to just survive a couple of turns and maybe survive a couple of players as well.
He's got the absolute worst opponent this turn as well. He's at 8. Yanstay on the other side, on Daryl, is going to be strong, right? Yeah, Daryl is very strong at this point of the game, but he's going to do very little damage because he's a Daryl and is probably down on lower tiers. Yes, still down on Tavern 3 right now is Yanstay. Yeah, he will do a small amount of damage to most people he fights right now. The one thing Bofa can't afford is to take a small amount of damage. This is the worst opponent and I was just going to say, in this position.
As we look at the board, he does have a 4-drop and 3-drop that are on relatively high stats, so have a chance of living. And if they live, even though he is on Tavern Tier 3, there's a chance that he does just kill him here, and it's going to be brutal for Bofa. As you said, it's like the one thing he didn't want to happen is just be exactly 8th this turn, this game, sorry. Okay, well there's a 4-star gone.
He needs to get everything except the Pirate off the board to survive here, which I just don't think is possible from this position. Even with the green thumb going off, I just don't think it's getting there.
Oh, I was going to say, or he could just get the Pirate off the board, but that wasn't going to happen either. Oh, wow, that is going to be Bofa. gone to a perfect 8 damage, and that's a big problem because it looks like Kid survived on 1 health, so it's not even a shared half a point for Bova to scrape there.
Oh, and now disaster scenario as well, because Roger's in a position where he might be able to win the lobby. Roger on 3 points, Bofa on 8.5.
I will say, though, just checking things out, Sao King on Scabs did get hold of a Thissa as well. So I imagine we've not checked in on his board. I'm sure we will a little bit later on. But both players looking strong just because of the nature of Sao King being Scabs. There we go.
Not as strong, though. Looks like he could end up taking a little bit of damage from the Daryl here as well. As said, I think this is an inspired pick from Yanase. Daryl over Galakron is certainly a weird one, but that's what tournament metagaming is all about. Alucard here, just trying to scrap, does have Bofa's Ghost, so he will be able to try and make something more aggressive happen here. But the big thing to keep an eye on is just how strong Roger is, because Roger is one of the players that can just straight up leapfrog Bofa from this position, kick him out of that 4th place. I think Bofa might be starting to look in trouble with that 8th.
I do love that we've been looking at these players on, you know, huge Naga, huge Daryl, Mutinous, stuff like that. And then it's like, and then we go to Alucard, it's like, Alucard, got a few pirates. That's about it. So, but again, he's feeling at least fairly comfortable. But you are right, Roger, Golden, Thissa, the Naga generation, the self buffs, obviously not the strongest overall end game board, but that can be solved very quickly indeed as he dispatches Kid on the Bran without much effort at all, and that I believe alone is going to be Kid dying that turn, so that's going to be 7th place for Kid, which then I believe will probably put him in not a position now to get top 4.
And we join Zixo in progress, has Siren or Gazoa set up as well.
Is that his cat?
There is a cat earthquake being caused right now. Don't worry, no one panic. It's okay, Zixo, just let the cat.
I thought it was just Zixo powering up.
That's what I thought. I thought he was like, had like nervous energy and he was like bouncing his legs up and down or something, and then just the cat tail appeared. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no, that makes
perfect sense.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The first Discover wasn't great, but the glow scale pickup, you're never upset to see a glow scale, right? An additional Divine Shield, always useful in these comps.
One too many minions in play right now for me that do not proc Spellcraft, do not proc Siren at the end of the turn. I think Zixo will probably want to look at that in terms of maximizing stats over time overall. SJMR, very similar position. You are starting to see now, as we're getting towards the end game state, these boards homogenize into the kind of thing you have already become used to seeing. And it's just a matter of who can do it the most efficiently, who can do it the best.
Before he played a minion then, it did make me laugh that I was genuinely trying to work out if his hand was actually stronger than his board. At that point, if he just swapped them, would he have a stronger board? Because it looked close, honestly. It didn't look too far away at all. Gonna get the second glow scale down, get that extra Divine Shield. Whether he leaves glow scale on the board is another question.
By fate or fortune.
Oh, this is like a desperation play, isn't it? This is just please don't die this turn. Like he might die.
Unfortunately, opponent much, much bigger. Weird positioning. Obviously, Pirate first does make sense in that position because it's kind of there for that function to kind of boost things early. As now we see Alucard going down to Roger Zephyrus as well. But the fact that you kind of put the Eliza up front as a bumper, then into the Leroy, was then making the Leroy weaker as well, right? Because you're expecting your first 2 attacks to go into a glow scale anyway. What? No way! How did that happen?
When Alucard died, I was staring at the scoreboard like, okay, SJMR, like, quickly follow to 0. It never happened. He must have he did have Divine Shield poison on the Sephin. I imagine that's what went on. But still, the fact he survived is huge. That is a significant gain in points, honestly, because he doesn't have to share them with Alucard now.
Absolutely absurd.
desperation play paid off. That all you ever need is just give me one more turn. Let me survive one more turn. But I do think there is a large gap, at least for me, between SJMR and the rest of the lobby right now that are alive. Like the gap is ridiculous. I think 5th is where it was almost always going to end for SJMR.
Yeah, but I mean, SJMR on 3.5, right? Both are on 8.5. It's going to be still a long climb for SJMR to get into a position where he's leapfrogging Bofa, let alone the fact that it looks like Roger, who started this 0.5 points behind him, is going to win this lobby, right? Yeah. So I do think SJMR's position is very underwhelming right now overall, despite what could have been a potential scam there. If that Eliza ended up like changing a breakpoint in that fight to where like it exactly survived, genius. I take my hat off.
A gift for a shall leave this junk in our sea.
Definitely a scary world where I'm staring at Sao King's board. I'm like, oh, there's only a second Thissa. Oh wait, no, it's gold. Never mind. I thought they. Is that gold? No, it's not. Sorry, it's the Divine Shield confusing me. I was like, oh, well, you know, could do with a gold Thissa by now for turn 11 of the game.
3 Sirens, though. That is a ton of passive scaling at the end of the turn from the Golden Siren and the regular Siren. Or just how hard that pumped. Very even-looking board states. I think these Divine Shield trades are going to be the big deal, and those were huge from Zixo. Value trades as well on the Orgazoa. Yup, just enough in the end. Again, I would imagine that was somewhere fairly close to a 50-50 fight. Those mid-game attacks with the Divine Shields, I think, were the defining factor there, and it looked like Zixo got just slightly the better of it.
Yeah, also really crazy sort of end state as SJMR does go out, of course, kind of expectedly so. But look at this end state, right? Roger started this on 3 points going into this, looking very strong to win right now as sort of just giggling away how strong this turn is. But then we had Zixo on 6, so yeah, Zixo going in there. He's looking very strong indeed to be in contention. And then Yanase and Sao King, who are very close together on 9 and 10 points, also still in the lobby. So there's a chance even that like Alucard can actually be pushed out here with his like 6th place.
Imagine Roger turning down the Giga Cleave there. Like, come on, I've been talking about it all day so far. You had the perfect opportunity to just dump every spellcraft you have onto a magnetic minion, chuck it on the Foe Reaper, use it to fill that last space on your board. I don't think it's optimal. I just think basically whatever Roger does from this position, he's going to win the lobby, so it would have been nice to see in that spot.
I love that we've been talking about Naga and, you know, how to play, how to optimize it, and then Yanase is just there like, I'm just going to be dancing this game. It's just loving it, just dancing around, having a good time, and guess what? Having a minimum of top 4 here in this lobby.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my hello, my ragtime girl.
He's just having a good time. It's like, oh yeah, how do I optimize my Naga to get the most spellcrafts off to do this? Yeah, optimize stats. And he's just like, having a good time.
Keep up the momentum, friend.
Yeah, 6-0 just like a minion behind regarding the power level of his board, right? The Wave Rider just not doing it. Its best job is to just peel his shield. You could use a Leroy for that, right? Which normally does a much better job than just a basic minion. So he's going to be taking a significant amount of damage, but I believe that does not add up to 27.
No, 24. Lives to fight another day, but I'm not sure how much that is worth to Zixo. He should be able to pick off these other fights. But it looks like Yanase is going to hang around. And again, shout out to this pick, right? Like, turning down a Galakron. If you need it explained to you why the hero that can just shoot shops until 6 drops appears is good in this meta, keep up. But turning that down to go with Dancing Daryl in this position, I do think was an absolutely inspired pick in Yanase's position. Just having a bit of fun, just tempoing out, just waiting for other people to die. And he has done so perfectly. 2 HP to play with, top 4 secured, and top 4 in this lobby secured, top 4 in this tournament overall secured, I believe, as well, going through now into tomorrow.
Also, funnily enough, he's going against Zixo, right? So the most beatable of opponents that are left, I think.
Yes.
So there's a small chance he could even convert this into a third. It's a small chance, I will say that, but still, it's better than facing the murderer Zephyrus right now, who is just dispatching everyone.
Yeah, but the results of this have already spelled disaster for Bofa there with that top 8. There's too many players, I believe, that have overtaken Bofa already. Zixo, for example, starting this lobby on 6 points. He's now made top 4 as well, which means he has eclipsed Bofa's 8.5 as well. Roger, of course, is doing it, and he's looking like the most likely lobby winner. So there are a few spaces left to scrap for. But Kid and Bofa, I believe at the very least, have no chance of making it from this position. But all the remaining live players still scrapping for position.
I was going to say, I think it looks like Alucard could be out as well, right? Potentially.
Alucard's starting on 11.5.
Because Zixo's still in, Sao King Yannisei's still in, but then if Roger wins, he go. Oh no, because if Roger wins, he'll go up to only 10, right?
Yeah,
never mind. Sorry,
Roger can't pass Alucard. Zixo can't
that was the one
pass
I was
Alucard.
Yeah, so Alucard is looking okay. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm sorry. You know, it's like going up against a brick wall, isn't it? You're just not gonna win.
Yeah, close. Divine Shield Poison, I think, doing the best things that you can when you recognize, you know, you're in that position where you have to adapt, right? I think this is one of the tough things for maximizing MMR gain, maximizing tournament play as well, is sometimes you hit early, right? You have the Athissa, you have the Orgazoa, you're like, cool, I'm winning this lobby. Then you see someone else, you're like, oh, they're winning this lobby, and then you have to readapt to, you know, kind of what I was referring to colloquially as the give up board, right? Where you just start buying Leroys and Manted Queens and so on. Forget about scaling your Naga as much because you're never going to match that level of scaling from the Zephyrus that you just saw there in Snapshot from Roger. So finding creative solutions with the Poison Scam, with the Reborn Gas Coilers, with the Giga Cleaves, whatever it is that you end up going for to try and find some creative solution, you really do have to find those creative solutions because you can't just magically catch up in stats to what Roger is doing on the other side.
Gonna end with just Roger versus Zixo now, and last time they fought, Roger just dumpstered him, I believe, and did all the damage to bring him down to 3. I imagine the same thing's gonna happen again because just looking at this board from Zixo, he does not have the scam potential, right? He doesn't have the Leroys, he doesn't have the Mantids to try and do something creative here. He doesn't have a ghoul maybe for the Divine Shields and stuff like that. So it looks like he's just going to put on his best attack, just stack as many stats as possible. But I think this might be a done deal in Zephyrus. I do think is a very, very strong hero in this meta because tripling into these power plays is so huge and there are so many of them. Of course, there's always better ones, but there's so many triples, especially within Naga, that can make a big impact into the outcome of the game, right? Even early on from, say, like Siren, right? If you triple an early Siren, it's, like, huge.
I mean, certainly if Zephyrus gets there, it's one of the best in the absolute late game state, because one of the problems that you can run into in the late game is board space issues, right? You want to keep double Orgazoa because it's providing you so much value with your Golden Siren, right? So you want to keep them both hanging around, but you can't afford the 2 board spaces. Same thing with double Athissa. Obviously, you're never, ever, ever just going to dump out an Athissa and get rid of it, but the fact they're both there eating up board spaces means less Sirens, means less Spellcraft being generated at the end of the game. So just the ability to, at will, combine those things into one is such a big deal on Zephyrus, and you may notice, totally ignored the fight, because it was a foregone conclusion. Yeah. I told you Roger was going to win that lobby 8 turns ago. It was a given at that point. Golden Orgazoa, Golden Athissa at that point. That is peak scaling, and when you combine that with Siren and everything else, that is the package that you want to go for, and Roger did exactly what he needed to do, but in the end, those extra few points from Zixo finding his way into 2nd place meant that it was all in vain, and you can see Yannisei, Alucard, Sao King, and Zixo holding down those top 4 spots. Roger went out with a bang. He gave all his fans a great showing with that Zephyrus game at the end, but the way the other placings broke down were just extra cruel to him.
I will say as well, very impressed with Yannisei's play so far. Obviously, won first lobby, did not so well in the second lobby, but just the approach to the overall like meta game of the three game sample size is was really impressive, and I think his just play in general was pretty standout across all these players, at least for me. So
yeah, I think certainly he's had a very good grip on tournament play, right? What it means in different scenarios, how your play needs to be changed, how your picks, how your choices, how everything changes based on the context of the tournament. And that's a whole other layer beyond normal Battlegrounds adaptation, right? Which is, am I strong? Who's my opponent? What are they showing as? All of these things that are factors that can contextually change how you react to a given situation. When you play in a tournament, there's a whole other layer thrown on top of that, and I think Yannisei has done a great job of adapting to it. Yes, he was put in a position early which allowed him to do that, but having been put in that position, he's executed perfectly, which is all you can ask from a player at this point.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I know there are a lot of Bofa fans out there, but we saw that turn there, and he just couldn't get to grips with the Mutinous, couldn't survive. 8 damage went into face, and that was.
I'm still looking at that fight at the point we cut away and just be like, how? So the 7-10 had to have attacked the 7-8 on the right-hand side exactly next, I believe, to take a value trade. Because even with the Divine Shield Poison, I think he was a minion short, unless he found one more value trade in that position. Crazy. I really.
Ask how. Just know it happened.
Yeah.
That's it. But yeah, congratulations to Roger on winning that lobby, but unfortunately falling just short as 6-0 swoops in with the second place, which put him in enough points to be able to go through there. So already, Saul, we are done for the first lobby of the day, the first set of 8 players. What have you made of it so far? The players we've got, the play we've seen, I'm guessing the meta we've seen develop over the course of this very few 3 games is pretty much what you expected to see going in at the start of the show?
Yeah, largely what was predicted. I did, of course, throw out that caveat that, we expected to see a particular meta in HGI, for example, and it didn't end up panning out. I do think that just the overwhelming strength, like, Naga as an optimal order strategy is way above what Tavern 4 Milkers was as an optimal order strategy in that metagame, right? So what then has to be worth as a payoff in terms of risk reward tables and calculations to be able to punish that on the other side is so much higher, and that doesn't exist, right? You'd need somehow 20 board spaces and 6 Meccano tanks to be able to actually tempo out against what Nagas can do on the other side. So this is kind of where we're at. Naga are incredibly strong at the moment. You have to shoot for them, but I do still think some of these players that have found their way into top 4, they have understood the assignment, right? Which is really the first box that you have to tick. You need to do both things. You need to understand how to optimize the Naga board, the Naga warband, and how to actually beat other opponents doing the same thing as optimally as possible. You have to understand how to turn 7th into 6th, how to turn 6th into 5th, how to turn 5th into 4th when you are not the player doing that. And that's where I think, doing that together to get top 4 to go through to Sunday, and then when we get to Sunday to be the eventual winner, that's the skill set that we're going to need from these players, especially when we get into check format where both things become crucial, right? Finding a 7th, just picking up 1 point to get over that 20-point threshold or whatever it ends up being, that's a crucial skill that you might have to have. And then, of course, with the way check format works, picking up that lobby win at the end, that's a crucial part of the puzzle as well. So we will need to see players demonstrate all those tools in their arsenal as we get through to Sunday. But I think already the players that we've gone through in top 4, you look at some of the scrappy games Zixo had early on, followed up by just finally hitting the Nagas and getting second, right? You do really have to find both sides of the coin, and congratulations to the players that have.
Yeah, getting just enough points to push you over the edge is exactly what you need. But that means our first lobby is done. We've got a new lobby coming up with 8 new players here. We are going to go to a bit of a longer break while we get all the players fully prepared and ready to go. So you've got some time to go grab a fresh drink or, do whatever you need to do. But we are going to step away while we set that up. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be back with more Lobby Legends Noblegarden.